Welcome to another week of Pick 3 DST, where I give you 3 defenses I like, 1 defense I'm fading, and 1 defense I'm stashing ahead of week 4 of the NFL season. As a reminder, these are not my full weekly DST rankings. If you want to check those out, you can click the link below, which will take you to the rankings that I'll update as the week goes on when we get weather concerns and injury updates and things of that nature. As always, we're going to start with our accountability report in what was a chaotic week 3 in the NFL. The 1 p.m. slate on Sunday looked like a disaster through 3 quarters, and then the madness ensued, and we had some crazy finishes. We had 12 teams finish in double-digit scoring for fantasy defenses, including the Panthers and the Bears, which is a good reminder that it's still early in the season, and we don't really know the true talent of a lot of these teams. Despite the chaos, we had a decent week for our video picks. I had the Seahawks as my stud defense, and they finished with 16 fantasy points, which was good for the 3rd overall defense on the week. And then my sleeper was the Jaguars. They finished with 12 points, which we really loved, got them into the top 10. Unfortunately, my solid defense was the Falcons, and they dropped the ball with only 3 points against the Panthers. And then I faded the Bucs, saying that they were more of a safe floor play without a high ceiling, but they scored 14 points, and that is absolutely a high ceiling. So we missed on that one, and we'll hope to get the ship right here in week 4. My sleeper defense of the week is the Carolina Panthers. Consensus has them down at 24th, but I have them at 12th on the week. So this makes the Panthers more of a fringe 12-team league play and definitely a deep league option, but not a top 10 play like I've had for some of my sleepers before. Right now, the Panthers rank 5th in turnover rate and 9th in opponent scoring rate, so they have been a really solid defense overall on the season. They're averaging 9 fantasy points per game, and I know it's a small sample size, and I would be more inclined to disregard the small sample size if the Panthers weren't playing the Patriots this week. And this Patriots offense right now gives up the 2nd most sacks in the NFL and has the 3rd most turnovers, or the 3rd highest turnover rate in the NFL. And so that's an offense we really want to attack. Drake May is a good quarterback, but he leans into the chaos a little bit too much sometimes. And so I think this Panthers defense could certainly push near the top 10 this week. My solid defense of the week is the Los Angeles Chargers. Consensus has them at 4th, but I have them down at 9th on the week. Now, I wanted to discuss the Chargers here because even though I have them in the top 10, I'm not as high on them as the consensus, and I wouldn't be dropping or benching one of your really strong defenses for the Chargers this week. So far through the season, the Chargers are 3rd in completion rate allowed and 10th in EPA allowed per play. That's expected points added allowed per play. So they've been solid in some aspects. However, they haven't been a great fantasy defense. They're averaging only 6 fantasy points per game, and they had to put Khalil Mack on the IR, and so that's a really huge blow for this defense, and it would make me less inclined to use them, except they're playing the Giants this week, and we know that the Giants are an offense we want to attack. The Giants did get Andrew Thomas back last week, and that's really important for this offensive line, and I do think that the offense is going to be better now that Cam Skattebo is the full-time running back. I think he adds a little bit more explosive playmaking than Tyrone Tracy Jr. And no, I would not change this ranking if Jackson Dart starts over Russell Wilson. Wilson has been throwing picks, has been turning the ball over. Dart can make some plays with his legs, so I really don't think it matters who starts at quarterback for the Giants. The Chargers are a top 10 play, but I just don't really think they're a smash spot, and so I would play defenses like the Packers, the Steelers, the Seahawks, and the Vikings over the Chargers, even though consensus has all of those defenses ranked behind them. Before we get to my solid defense of the week, pause this video and comment below. Let me know which defense you're starting this week, or ask me any start-sit questions, and I'll get to those as the week goes on. My stud defense of the week is the Green Bay Packers. Consensus has them at 8th, and I have them up at 3rd on the week. I'm not really sure why consensus is so low on the Packers this week. They've been a really strong defense. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, they rank 2nd in conversion rate allowed, 3rd in EPA per play allowed, 5th in opponent scoring rate, and 7th in PFF's pass rush productivity rate. So they're checking boxes across the board right now, and now they're going up against a Cowboys offense that is going to be without CeeDee Lamb, who suffered a high ankle sprain. That means the Cowboys playmakers are George Pickens, Devontae Williams, and Jake Ferguson, and that's not really an offense that scares me too much. Plus, through 3 weeks, the Cowboys are the 4th worst in the NFL in turnover rate, and they've allowed 5 sacks in the last 2 games. I think the Packers are going to come out with their hair on fire after blowing that game against the Browns, and I expect a really strong game from their defense this week. The defense I'm fading this week is the San Francisco 49ers. Consensus has them at 10th, and I have them down at 16th on the week. So this isn't a major fade, but the rankings are pretty consistent across the board, and I just really wouldn't be using the 49ers outside of the deepest formats right now. They've been a strong defense through 3 weeks. However, as dysfunctional as the Jaguars have been on offense, they're only giving up 4 fantasy points per game to opposing defenses. So they haven't really been a smash spot that we want to target in fantasy leagues. They've played the Panthers and the Bengals and the Texans, so that could be part of it. But the Jags have only given up 3 sacks on the season, and they're middle of the pack in turnover rate, and that's not great news for this 49ers defense that's going to be without Nick Bosa, since he is now out for the season with a torn ACL. And the 49ers are already only 14th in pass rush productivity rate, and they have now lost their best pass rusher, so that's problematic for me. The Jags probably won't score a lot of points here, but I don't really see the 49ers putting up a high ceiling play, and so I'll fade them outside of the deepest formats. My stash to get ahead of waivers in Week 5 is the Carolina Panthers. They are currently rostered in only 20% of leagues. Through 3 weeks, we know that we want to target the Bengals, the Titans, the Patriots, the Raiders, the Panthers, and Browns with our defenses. Unfortunately, I cannot recommend you playing the Dolphins defense, and then the Ravens, the Vikings, and Bills are all rostered in over 70% of leagues, so that's not a streaming play or a stash play right now. And so that leaves the Cardinals, who are going to face a Titans offense that has allowed the most sacks in the NFL. Opposing defenses are scoring nearly 12 fantasy points per game against the Titans right now. And so the Cardinals could push for double digits next week. And so I do like them as a stash play right now. That's going to do it for this episode of Pick 3 DST. As a reminder, you can click the link below, which will take you to the rankings that I'll update as the week goes on. And don't forget to like and subscribe to get this video every week, plus all of our fantasy content and football content over at NBC Sports. Good luck on Sunday.